When you're dividing decimals, it's as simple as dividing fractions, because decimals are just fractions that aren't written as fractions. So if I see 6 divided by 6/10, I'm just going to do 6 over 1 divided by, another way to write 6/10 is like this, 6/10. And then I'll just treat it like my fraction division problems. I'll do the reciprocal, 6 over 1 times its reciprocal, 10 over 6. I then can see that 6 can be factored out diagonally here, 1 and 1. It gives me 10 over 1. And my answer here is 10. When I'm working on 5 divided by 25 hundredths, I'll write it just the way it sounds. 5 divided by 25 hundredths. And then I'll treat it just like all the other fractional division problems. I'll just do reciprocal. 5 over 1 times the reciprocal, which is 100 over 25, and I'll see that both the 5 and the 25 can be factored out of a 5, so I'll factor out a 5 here and a 5 here. When I multiply them, I get 100 over 5, which can be simplified simply to 20. For this last one, I actually have 2 decimals that I can treat just like fractions. So I would do 87 hundredths divided by 3 hundredths, and then I would use reciprocals. 87 hundredths times the reciprocal, which is 100 over 3. I can see that both of these things can be divided by 100. And I know that 87 is divisible by 3 because 8 plus 7 is 15, and I know that if the sum of the number is divisible by 3, then the number itself is divisible by 3. 1 here, and 29. So I get 29 over 1, or just 29. You can try these 3. You can pause the video here and try all 3, or you can pause them one at a time, and then I'll go over the answers. If you look at the first one, 8 divided by 4/10, I would simply rewrite it as 8 divided by 4/10, just the way it sounds. And then I would do 8 over 1 times the reciprocal, 10 over 4. Can divide these both by 4. I get 20 over 1, or just 20. The next one I would write as 8 divided by 16 100ths. If I use the reciprocal, 8 over 1 times 100 over 16. Then I can see that diagonally these are both divisible by 8. That's 1, and that's 2. And I get 100 over 2, or 50. The last one, 98 hundredths divided by 7/10. I'll write it just the way it sounds. 98 100ths divided by 7/10. I would treat it just like other fractions and do 98 over 100 times its reciprocal, which is 10 over 7. See some shortcuts here. I see that 10 and 100 are both divided by 10, so that becomes 1. That becomes 10. I know that 7 and 98 are both divisible by 7. That's 1. And that is 14, I think. When I multiply them, I get 14 over 10, which is 1 and 4/10. I could reduce that, or I could write it as 1 and 4/10 using the decimal. Either way, this would be considered right.